Yo, what up? Welcome to another episode of the Oakland Warriors podcast. I'm Patrick, and I am joined after a long time, a hiatus, you could call it, joined by my buddy Vubang. What's up, Vubang?
What's up? This is a great time to come back a few hours after the trade deadline. Wouldn't
Yeah,
have it any
man.
other way.
It's been a hell of a week. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I don't know how I'll feel in 2026/2027, but 2024, 2025, I feel great.
Yeah. I'm tired. My productivity from this week was unexpectedly thrown off. I know the trade deadline is usually kind of distracting. We're looking for Shams tweets and stuff, but yeah, I'm tired. Like, I'm never on Twitter, but I was like tweeting like my emotions, you know what I mean? And I was tweeting. I was going on Twitter. I was going on our group text. I was going on the Oakland Warriors Discord, and I was pretty much just saying the same stuff all the way around.
Can I suggest one thing? It might be better next year even, is to get off of Twitter/X and move over to Blue Sky, because Blue Sky has all of the relevant information and all the major news breakers and retweets from Shams, but doesn't have the toxic comments and the random fake stuff quite yet. It's like using Craigslist the first year it came out. It's really great.
Yeah.
It actually works.
Yeah,
Twitter,
I actually have
so much.
Yeah, I have a Blue Sky account which I haven't used, but I will do that again next year. But maybe next year we won't even need a trade. Who knows?
Right.
A ton has happened. Like, I wanted to almost do like a podcast solo like every day because there's just a bunch of random stuff. But I'll let you just have the floor for a bit, and just whatever you want to talk about something, tell me your impressions, all that stuff.
I would love to dive into A, the Luka Doncic trade, B, the actual Jimmy Butler trade, and C, very quickly, if we have time, the whole Kevin Durant, I don't want to come back to the Warriors thing, but I do want to state two things that are overarching, that sort of cover all of that sort of tinge, that sort of cover all three topics, which is, the first is, in a vacuum, the Jimmy Butler thing, I like, right? We're essentially trading Andrew Wiggins for Jimmy Butler, a guy who's inconsistent and more of an 82 game guy and maybe a 16 game guy. For a guy is a 16 game guy, granted it might be 12 games, but 13 games, which are depending on his injury history. But we always want playoff guys over the regular season guys. We just have to bubble wrap them, right? The second is, love Jimmy Butler this year. Hopefully love him next year. I will hate this contract in 26-27, right? That's what I'm worried about. Paying whatever one half of 116 million is for 26-27 for a 37-year-old guy. Like, that was sort of what he's been looking for, and he got it from the Warriors, which I get. That was his asking price from Miami originally, before he started going full nuclear like he does always with every team. And so that's what I'm really worried about the most. But overall, in a vacuum, that's fine. The thing that pisses me, worries me, all the different sort of anxiety things that I've had since Magic Johnson, I guess, was first drafted in 1980, is that in the context of the Lakers, I mean, we're screwed, basically. Like, to go from one generational player like LeBron to another generational player like Luka is going to be really interesting. Two things I also want to say related to that is, I really would love to see how LeBron and Luka do when it comes to, basically showing up and getting into shape the first day of the season. How Luka takes that into account versus the $1 million a year that LeBron says he spends on his body. And then, yeah, at some point, if we could talk about Andrew Wiggins in Miami, something
Sure.
I'll be watching is heat culture affecting the inconsistent, unreliable Andrew Wiggins, who for the next few games, I think in our heads, we're going to be like, is Andrew Wiggins playing? Because we always forget he's playing anyway. So we might still think he's on the team. So those are my initial thoughts. We can go deeper into each section.
Yeah. I mean, let's go to the Luka thing because that was the first thing. That's the thing that set off this whole final week of before the trade deadline, and that's what got me completely distracted from my regular tasks of the day and made me sleep deprived because I was getting up. I was going to sleep too late, getting up too early. Um, but when I heard about that trade, I'm at the end of the day, I'm mad. Like there's so many things. Like mentally, I'm going from the very beginning, but all the way to the end, just like that, because I'm furious, and it's been said by many people that uh, what the hell? I feel for Mavs fans because as a longtime suffering Golden State Warriors fan, this kind of feels like Chris Webber for Tom Gugliotta, and at least they got 3 picks out of that, but a million times worse. Like Luka Doncic, for whatever issues he may have, it's like if you want to move off him, if they know something that no one else knows, if the Mavericks have some intel, whatever, if they just really don't like his conditioning or the people that he brought in, then get something, get something better. Don't just like Nico Harrison, your homie, Rob Pelinka, Nico Harrison, Kobe Bryant's guy at Nike, Pelinka, Kobe Bryant's one client when he was an agent, and just do them a solid. I personally think Nico Harrison should be GM executive of the year or whatever, because no one else has resurrected the Lakers any more than Nico Harrison. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating. You know what I mean? And I mentioned they got Mark Williams. They used a pick that a lot of people were like, the Mavericks should have gotten that pick. They only got one first rounder in that deal, along with Anthony Davis, who's good, who's still good, but like, come on, man. It's silly. It's silly. I thought that the Lakers were just like, I was gonna write them off this year because they had some ill-fitting pieces and it was all about a future move. But when they got Mark Williams, I was like, oh, okay. They still have some defensive issues on the fringes, but man, this isn't about this the second half of the season. It's about the next 10 years. One more thing I'll say, uh, you know, trading Luka at 25, turning 26 in February, this is the equivalent of trading Steph in the middle of the season, the year that they lost to the Clippers in the first round of the playoffs, the year after they pushed the Spurs and had beaten the Nuggets in the playoffs. Uh, and the year before, Steve Kerr took over and took them, on this dynasty run. And I'm not saying that Luka would have gone on a similar title run, but just that's how much basketball Luka Doncic has in front of him. You know what I mean? As a top 3 player, perennial MVP candidate. So it's frustrating. He should have fleeced the Lakers personally.
I will forever, and everybody will forever not understand how that 2031 pick was not involved. Right? You look at all the previous trades, the Timberwolves getting Gobert, actually everybody before, every single trade for even just a barely all-star has gotten more than what Luka, top 3 MVP candidate, was. The only semblance of reality that I can sort of pick away at, that I can actually comprehend this, is the whole Anthony Davis aspect of this. Like, this feels like like a whole team wanting Jalen Brunson the same way that they wanted Anthony Davis, and somehow they tipped their hat to the Lakers to not be able to negotiate this. I mean, it's this. If this was the old Adam Silver, was it Adam Silver
Chris Paul.
who stopped the Chris Paul trade, or was it Adam? Was it Adam Silver
I
or
think
Dave
that was
Stern?
Stern. I think Stern.
Yeah. So I nobody understands it. There is something going on. I don't think we'll ever understand this. But the one thing that does not make any sense, that you cannot not knock on, is the fact that Anthony Davis is 31 years old and Luka is 25 years old. And I will never understand the age difference issue. Like, even if they were equal players, let's just say that they value Anthony Davis as much as Luka Doncic, which is obviously still crazy talk, right? there's a
Mhm.
6-year age difference. And you could talk about conditioning all you want, but Anthony Davis has, I guess, like probably the most entries in streetclothes.com or whatever that website is, right? I feel like I see Anthony Davis in street clothes, or he just falls for no reason and has trouble getting back up more than any other player I've ever seen. And to this day, I still think that the bubble Lakers won because they had a 2-month break in between playing to be able to recover. We all know that's why. We all know why there's an asterisk next to that championship, right?
I think that was like a 6 month break. And yeah.
I don't remember. Why, my God, that's a long time. But yeah, that's the thing that I don't get. I mean, it's a 6-year difference. So I, we could spend the next 20 hours talking about this trade, but I really do think that LeBron is going to get Luka to actually show up to training camp.
I'm,
So we'll see what's going to
I,
happen there.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, if his issue is health, conditioning, he likes to drink beer, whatever, uh, then, I mean, as a competitor, and this is true for Jimmy Butler, we'll talk about him later, but like as a competitor, world class, he's if he keeps hearing that that's one of the reasons, then especially being in LA, seeing LeBron train, as you said, spend $1 million on his body, like I'm pretty sure he's going to be petty enough and competitive enough to fix those issues and to work on those things.
The infrastructure in LA and LeBron is going to make him want to work out, right? We all know that there's going to be a lot of things that'll lure him into the dark side in LA. But he was the man in Dallas. He can get away with a lot. He is not going to be that guy in LA like LeBron is.
Yeah, and like the idea of getting Anthony Davis, Nico Harrison sits down, chuckly during his press conference, very smug. Again, I'm not a Mavs fan, but just as someone who doesn't like Lakers, but also someone, as I said, who kind of is having like PTSD for bad Warriors trades and press conferences. Like he's sitting there smugly joking about things, and he's like, "We're prepared to win now. We want to win now, and that means 3 to 4 years." The thing is, it's like he doesn't understand. He's not addressing. He's looking out for himself and the people he likes, and he's looking out to see if Nico Harrison, can bring another title to this team now. But honestly, the fans, I mean, we've talked about this. I talk about this all the time. Like the homegrown nature of your team is one of the best things about being a longtime sports fan. Seeing like Steph, Clay, Draymond, and that's why I've always been an advocate for some of these picks that we've had. So that, just in order to like pull like a 1997, um, baseball Marlins thing, and just get a team, win a championship, a very hollow championship. And I'm not saying it would be that way exactly, but it means less to the fans. And 3 to 4 years, Nico Harrison says, "Oh, I might be gone by then," or whatever. Then, but that doesn't matter. Like that. That's what sucks, because these fans will be there from the beginning to the end. And again, obviously, that's also ownership. And we've heard about how like there's new owners, and Mark Cuban was left out of this because he sold his shares. He doesn't have much of a say. He didn't have much of a comment. He had no idea this trade was happening. But and I've talked about this too. It's similar to how I always talk about the Warriors dodged a bullet with Stan Van Gundy, not giving him control of the front office or president of basketball operations or GM, whatever, when he interviewed for the coaching vacancy with the Warriors before Kerr came in. What did Van Gundy do? He went to the Pistons and he got
Signed Blake
general
Griffin.
manager. Yeah, he traded like a bunch of assets for a broken, aging Dunzo, Blake Griffin, and then he gets fired. But that the fans are stuck with the morass of what he's left behind, and that's unfortunately what's going to happen to the Mavericks. Which is why, as it makes me think about the Warriors, it makes me think like, there's a little bit the continuity I appreciate, but you
There's
know,
there's 3 things over the next 10 years that are going to happen. And I'll talk to them in reverse order about it, what I care about, which is the first is the Mavs are done. Like this is a signal that the Mavs are not in the first or second apron game. Mark Cuban was willing to spend, like, all those stories about him like buying the most expensive hand towels for the players, right, to lure them in because he saw how crappy everybody's locker room is. Those days are gone. This new ownership, and you can Google who they are, and you can just do all the research yourself and see, how they fit into, the fact that there's like conspiracy theories about there and how Trump hates Cuban and made the team trade Luka, which is hilarious, by the way. I love it. They're just not in the game anymore. I feel like we lost a Western Conference rival. Like this will be like the Toronto Maple Leafs of the Western Conference, NBA West. They're just going to make enough money to make money. They're not going to spend enough money to be competitive at all. Like that's why this is just going to be true, right? I can imagine ownership being bought in to just making money. This is totally going to happen, right? The second is the Lakers are always going to do this. Like the cornerstone for all of this, and the reason why Nico, and I keep thinking, I keep having PTSD to Nico Mannion every time I say Nico, by the way. The thing about him is he wanted AD, and the Lakers had AD because AD forced his way to the Lakers. And so this is always going to happen being a destination team. This is going to be the LA Lakers. This is going to be the Knicks. The Warriors should have gotten here at this point, but for some reason they're not, right? I don't know if it's star players don't want to be in the shadow of Steph, which is a really long statue, a really big statue in front of Chase Center that's going to have a really long shadow. But I really hope, eventually when Steph leaves, that we will be a destination and people will force their way to the Bay Area. But until then, the Lakers are going to be this destination. And so that they had AD. Nobody else had AD. That's why he only talked to the Lakers. The third of all this is the Warriors are sort of, there's three paths as a team to build and rebuild, right? One is if you have the players, you could put all the chips in, trade all your picks, and go at it every year, right? This is the Bucks mentality, right? Trade everybody that you have. Also the Lakers for the past. You only have a handful of first round picks. Whenever they become available, like 2031, you trade it. That rule that doesn't let you trade consecutive first round picks, that's there to stop these teams from doing that, right? Mm-hmm. All the Warrior fans want that to happen. It's just not going to happen because all the stars, the ownership, and the team agree that this team needs to function financially in perpetuity, right? We're not what the second team is, which is a destination team quite yet, right? The last great player to want to come here on their own was Andre Iguodala, who's having his jersey retired this month, right? So we're not quite there yet. And the third is a team that fully plans for the future. That's why it's frustrating. It's every time I see the Cavs come back and suddenly be a great team, all these teams that were competitive against the Warriors during the heyday and then competitive now, I always forget that they've been bad for like 5 years in between while the Warriors won a championship in 2022, right? I have to think it through. Like, how come the Cavs are suddenly good again? How come the Rockets are suddenly good again? Well, we forget that the last 5 years they've been bad, right? And so that's just where the Warriors won't go for a while. And it would have been great if, we had, I don't know how many years we're going to keep talking about Franz Wagner and Sengun and Halliburton. But we're always going to talk about what we could have had, right? And so, all being said, this is an okay position to be in, and having Jimmy Butler aligned with the same contracts as Steph Curry and Draymond, and sort of reset the table in 3 years, and still have all your picks. I mean, we traded the 2025 pick, right? There's still have control over most first round picks moving forward. So.
Yeah. I mean, before I get onto that, I want to touch on something you said about the Lakers and just always being a destination. It's funny because, right, like you go through just off the top of your head, you can name like at least 4 dudes who just are legends in 5, right off the top of your head, like Wilt, Kareem, Shaq, Kobe, LeBron, right, who just came to LA because it's LA. And it's this kind of entitlement that a lot of Lakers fans have that recent Warriors fans actually seem to have, but I don't think they realize what they're in for. But which is actually what put a smile on my face when the Lakers were bad with D'Angelo Russell and Jeremy Lin and Chris Mim and all those dudes, because it's like this idea that they can they're always going to be good. It's really just because people want to come here. But this Luka thing, he didn't want to come to LA. He just Nico Harrison wanted to send him there. And again, if I'm a Mavs fan, it's like, great. I'd prefer the picks. I'd prefer like a boatload of picks and swaps or whatever over Anthony Davis, right? Over like 2 years of Anthony Davis before Mr. Glass makes an appearance again, if not sooner. So, those are just my final thoughts.
I do want to talk. One thing you brought up is really interesting. The picks. I assume the Jazz knew about this trade before everybody else, right? Because they were involved in the trade. Would you have preferred Lauri Markkanen and all their picks over Anthony Davis? Like,
yes.
What? Huh? What? That was my first thought. Well, you can't trade Lauri Markkanen, right? Because he resigned, but like,
right.
Kessler Walker,
right.
It's
that's the thing. It's executive malpractice by Nico Harrison to totally screw over the whole Mavs.
But Danny Ainge could have been like, "Oh, can I just get in on this too? I know I'm helping you get this trade through. What if I just offered you this as well?"
Anybody else could have, and like you alluded to, they really wanted, or Harrison really wanted Anthony Davis, and for his like win now, he knows Davis from before. Well, whatever. If I'm a Mavs fan, I was like, you didn't open this up to the rest of the NBA so we can get like 40 picks and like like a couple of prospects, and just because you wanted to see if you could win now with your buddy Anthony Davis in the 3 to 4 years that you're going to get a lot of hate mail from Mavs fans. Well, so it goes. But man, yeah, I could totally I could just sit here.
I hope Nico is right. That's my last thought on this. I hope he's right.
I hope for the Mavs fans' sake, I hope he's right. Yeah, sure. Because that also means that the Lakers aren't winning. But I don't know.
That means Luka's showing about 275 pounds. Every year in El Segundo.
I still laugh at that thing that Jose sent on the group text of James Corden. Is that his name? James Corden? It's Luka in the Lakers outfit. That killed me.
And this is a message for Laker fans. Like, if you think Luka Doncic wanted to come to the Lakers, I'm going to put $117 million on a platter for you, and you tell me whether or not you want it or not. 107. Nobody has never not signed the Supermax before. I think only Anthony Davis is the one who didn't want to do it. But like, other than that, $117 million.
Yeah.